Wade Stephen Wilson was originally scheduled to be released from disciplinary confinement and regain certain privileges on July 23, 2025, but recent violations have completely derailed that timeline. Instead of moving toward a slightly less restrictive status, Wilson has been hit with a 1-year visitation suspension starting May 13, 2025, which now prevents him from having any in-person or video visits until May 13, 2026. This comes on the heels of previous infractions involving misuse of his prison-issued tablet and unauthorized social media activity. Due to repeated violations of Florida Department of Corrections, FDC policies, Wilson has also received an indefinite tablet and kiosk suspension. That means even after the visitation suspension ends, he still won't be allowed video visits because of ongoing disciplinary issues tied to his tablet use. What was supposed to be a step toward easing restrictions this summer has now turned into an even more isolated and monitored situation for Wilson behind bars.
YouTube Streets Podcast, Wade Wilson is an idiot. All he had to do was stay out of trouble until July 23rd and he would have got all his restrictions lifted. Now, this is the official Team Wade, and they don't even know why Wade Wilson got a DR. But I think I know what it is. Not 100%, but if y'all remember, last week he was putting out a lot of threats saying he was going to dox former members and all that. And honestly, it looks like it's so easy to get a hold of Miss Fayo. It's one email away. They start looking into it. Bam, Wade Wilson gets another DR. But we don't know if that's it yet. But we know Wade Wilson, and we know how stupid he is. So it's probably one of the most stupidest things he could have got written up for. Now, we got two GDs from two different sides of America beefing with each other. And that is Texas Prison Stories and Jumpsuit Pablo. Now, we already covered Texas Prison Stories going after Jumpsuit on the Patreon. So make sure y'all go to the Patreon and check that out. It's like an hour and a half long. Good stuff. Now, Jumpsuit Pablo replies, but not in the way you think. Okay, instead of giving Texas Prison Stories what he wanted and giving him a video on that big channel of Jumpsuit Pablo's, but instead, he goes on Reddit to respond to Texas. Doesn't give him any clout, but we're going to read what Jumpsuit says because it's very interesting. Okay, the first thing he says is there's no beef. He says dying YouTube channels often go after rising channels for views, but unfortunately, this truck stop wankster still can't get his views using my name. I never respond to hit pieces because that's what they hope I'll do to get them views. I find that many white, husky, middle-aged men with teardrop tattoos are offended by me because I destroyed a narrative that shapes the entire worth and identity. Oh man, he's going in. That you don't have to be a gangster to rise to the top in prison. Ooh, you just have to be intelligent, which is something these kinds of losers aren't. I threatened their self-worth, and so they come after me and say things like he does. I'll slap Pablo, despite the fact that I am 6'1", 225, and would pull his Mr. Potato Head off his shoulders if we ever cross paths, which we won't. Nothing really to see here. Ultimately, a channel that averages 100K views doesn't beef with a channel that averages 2,000 views and only talks crap about literally every other channel within their niche that outperforms them. Oh my gosh. That mentality is not what makes an inmate rise above the other inmates and become a prison boss, as he claims to be. And that in itself destroys his whole angle. I realized very early that if I want to have any future in this world, I have to break away from this convict mentality. And that allowed me to separate myself from it and even make a joke out of the lifestyle. And so do I get goofy at times. When these insecure wannabe tough guys say prison YouTuber act goofy, they think that invalidates the person I had to be inside those walls. But in the end, he will either go back to prison or remain unsuccessful for the rest of his life. And me, I'll be here successfully reaching new levels and accomplishments and growing as a person and a law-abiding citizen every day. So you tell me who the real loser is. That's all I have to say on this. Mic drop. Now, we know Texas Prison Stories has been beefing with a couple people on YouTube, multiple dropout channels from the West Coast, even going back and forth with the Skinhead Prison POV Splinter. But the Jumpsuit Pablo beef was very personal for him because he is from Texas and he didn't like all that content that was made on Carmelo Anthony. Jumpsuit Pablo was going in on Carmelo Anthony in Texas Prison Stories. It seems like he's more pro Carmelo Anthony, maybe for both of the victims because he's from Texas. It hits kind of home, so he's kind of... But at the same time, he did say that Carmelo Anthony is a real hitter. To me, it sounds like both these dudes need to get in the ring. Now, you heard Jumpsuit Pablo say he's 6'1", 225. They both got hammers on them. Be a good fight. GD versus GD. Now, we actually interviewed both these individuals, so make sure y'all go check out that on the channel. So Lori Vallow is back in court again, going to have another trial. She tried to kill another family member. She's got the same judge, and this gets kind of crazy.
On the 30th, and impaneled on the 30th, the last Friday in May, and we have our opening statements and begin testimony and evidence Monday, June 2nd. You indicated that, the state indicated you would run out of witnesses either Wednesday or sometime Thursday.
Correct. That are available that week, yes.
Right, and then-
Obviously, I just received the defendant's 15.2 that lists 2 different expert witnesses. I did request that they actually comply with Rule 15.2 and give me any information about any of these experts. They've also listed other witnesses. So because of that, I would still screen them for the other week.
Well, maybe we should address that. Is there still no report from Lonnie Dworkin that the state's received?
I have received nothing.
Right. Do you have some sort of expert report you were disclosing?
We will, Your Honor, yes.
When?
Well, when is that going to be? Because it's way past due.
So the state did
Oh my gosh, she drops the glasses. Girl, in your curl hair. Come on, someone take that curler from her, please.
receive the affidavit from Lonnie explaining the things, which is why they turned over late discovery in the middle of trial. So we did have that. He's working on a few things for us as well now, and I will get with him as soon as possible and get that report to you as soon as possible.
Gosh, she's
All right,
deep
well,
throwing that mic back up.
It's, depending on what's in that report, it is likely to be precluded at this point, but I'll keep an open mind on that, and I guess we'll wait and see. Let's talk about, for the purposes of scheduling.
Your Honor, and just there's one other person that
Lori, stop treating that mic like Alex Cox's cock, please.
I'm
Googled.
going to ask her about the other
Okay.
witnesses. I received your supplemental witness list, I think yesterday. You have, in addition to Mr. Dworkin, you have Weaver, Barkman, again, Detective Moffat, Jeffrey White, Melanie Gibb, and Zulema Pastanas.
Zulema Pastanas.
Okay.
Yeah, that's Alex Cox's wife right there.
Was Detective Moffat also involved in this case?
He was involved with the case agent of this case while he was the case agent of the other case, correct?
Okay. So he may or may not have, he may have relevant information. Again, I guess that's a wait and see. What about, who's Weaver Barkman?
So he's a ballistics expert?
Is that an expert? So that's an expert. Do you have an expert report that's been disclosed?
Not yet, Your Honor. We're working on it.
Your Honor, since I have not noticed a ballistics expert, that's a big problem, because if I get something, then I would have to do that. So the defendant's, again, extremely late violation of all rules of criminal procedure.
You're a
is
shitty
problem.
lawyer, Lori.
It is a problem. Who's Jeffrey White?
My investigator.
Oh, okay. And do you have an idea of in what capacity you think he would be called?
Well, we had made a request from the state for the car door and the window that the bullet supposedly hit, and we were going to have him inspect that as well. We have recently found out that those 2 things do not exist.
Okay, Lori, it doesn't take away from the fact that you're already guilty of all these murders that you committed, including your own children. Now you're trying to make a clown show. You're trying to spend more tax dollars to please whatever you're trying to please. Is ridiculous.
So I'm not sure what they're going to be putting up as far as ballistics in their case in chief. So I was trying to have someone who could be able to look at whatever reports they're trying to put up and rebut anything that they're saying.
Is Mr. White an expert in that area?
Mr. Weaver?
No, I said Jeffrey White.
He's my investigator.
Right, that's who I was asking, who has relevant information. What's Mr. White's relevant information for why might he be called as into trial?
Because he's interviewing the witnesses as well, the defense witnesses.
So is it some sort of extrinsic impeachment if they,
Correct.
what about Melanie Gibb?
So Melanie Gibb and Zulema Pastanas were both initially noticed in the state's 15.1. They have not noticed them again. I don't know if they can still call them if they're on their list, but they have relevant information to this case.
Have they been presented for an interview by the state?
They've both been interviewed multiple times by the
I
state.
mean, not by police officers, I mean by either a prosecutor or someone in her office in preparation for trial.
In this case,
Yeah, in either case.
not that I'm aware of.
Have they been subpoenaed?
The subpoenas are out.
What relevant information would they have?
They have relevant information to Brandon Boudreaux
Okay.
and around that
What
time.
is the nature of that relevant information?
It will come apparent if they have to get up and testify, Your Honor. I will only call them if I need
Well, they're going to
them.
be precluded if you can't give me some minimal what relevant information they have. Just saying that they're relevant doesn't make them relevant. Okay?
Yes, and is this procedure that I have to say what each of my witnesses are relevant ahead of time and give my whole case in chief over to the state? It is?
Yeah,
That's
just
how
like-
it works?
like
That's
the-
the rules of law?
Stop interrupting me. Yes, that is
Lori's trying to use her powers to kill the judge. She thinks he's a zombie now because she can't get what she wants.
the rule of law. That's just what the state does. They tell you what relevant information each witness has. So my answer is yes. So if you can't tell me what relevant information they have, they'll be precluded.
They both have had dealings with Brandon Boudreaux and Alex Cox. So
Okay, so does someone, that was a server for them at a restaurant. It doesn't make them have relevant information as to this case. Anyone who came into contact with Mr. Boudreaux or Mr. Cox had some interaction with them at some point in their lifetime does not make them a relevant witness. So what is their relevance?
the state had them on their witness list and they're saying they're not relevant?
Apparently not. Are you calling them?
No, they're not
Right.
on my,
Police interview however many people they interview because they're working on the case. They don't know who has relevant information, who doesn't have relevant information. All the people that they interview don't end up being relevant. So because they're listed in a police report somewhere, doesn't necessarily make them relevant.
Okay, their relevance lies in if they have to rebut something that the state puts on in their case in chief. They're just called in case they need them. They're subpoenaed in case I need them.
All right. It sounds like they don't have relevant information. However, I'll include these names on the potential witness list for screening the jurors if the jurors have any knowledge of any of these witnesses out of an abundance of caution. That's really the purposes for today is the questionnaire that goes out to the jurors.
I really like this judge, and he's been more than fair to Lori this whole time. But Lori doesn't think so. She actually goes off because she wants to take off that rack belt, and she says he denies every motion that she puts in, but he puts her in her place.
I don't know, in your motion, I don't know where you get the idea that the sheriff's office recommendation ever was that you have no restraints at all. Their minimum recommendation was that you wear a rack belt.
Well, I have it right here and I copied it verbatim.
Yeah, you
Okay,
said, what it
recommendation.
said was my recommended,
Look at her making a ring out of a piece of cloth. How pathetic. And she's still married to Chad Daybell? Ew.
minimum requirements as listed above, and those were to wear a rack belt.
It said, or the recommendation of MCSO was that they could have a unarmed detention officer and an armed deputy sheriff if I was to not have any restraints.
Right, but that wasn't their recommendation.
Puts her in her place every time.
I've received, the defendant's motion, I've received non-party Maricopa County Sheriff Jerry Sheridan's response.
On the MCSO security justifications, my understanding is was his recommendation.
Your Honor, Joseph Vigil for the Sheriff's Office, if you have any questions.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll deny the motion from the defendant. The same conditions will be set that we had in the first trial, that being you wear the rack belt, no leg brace. There was one incident during the trial where you asked to take a break because a strap was hanging down behind your jacket. We did that. We rectified the situation. There's been no indication whatsoever that the jury noticed the rack belt or anything like that. So I think those conditions are appropriate and will remain for the second trial.
Your Honor, the jury was not polled to see if they noticed anything either. Was that correct?
Right. there was no request for that. All right, so next we have,
Look how pissed she is. This is so funny, man.
I would have to ask that you would recuse yourself from the obvious personal bias that you have against me and send us to master calendar for this scheduling of a trial.
and what personal bias is that?
Oh, man.
A lot, obviously,
Oh, my gosh. Yo, Lori is the shittiest lawyer of all time. She can never give an answer. Well, because...
personal bias that you're showing right now and that you've shown on the FTR several times during the trial.
Okay, well, I don't have any personal bias, all right? I've over-accommodated you on,
Look at all the stuff she has access to. She is such a spoiled brat.
when you have to disclose things. In fact, your expert should be summarily precluded today, and I haven't done that. All right? So,
You denied every single one of my motions since for a year and a half that I've been here. Every single one of my motions has been denied. And have any of those motions not have merit? You've denied every single motion.
I think I was here this morning about 15 minutes ago when I granted your motion to meet with your attorneys over the lunch hour.
Yo, drop the mic. Give this guy the glasses and the cigar.
I have granted other motions of yours, okay?
That's the first motion that you've ever granted
Well,
in my behalf.
file motions that have a legal basis, and I might grant them.
So you're saying none of my motions have had merit?
Not many, no.
And none of the motions that my first team, you denied every one of my first team's motions, you denied every one of my second team's motions, and now you denied every one of my motions until today.
I haven't denied every one of your motions.
Every single one of their motions was denied, every single one of the second team's motions were denied, and all mine. So you didn't come into this with any bias against me in the first place?
Again, file a motion that has legal merit, okay?
And none of my attorneys ever filed a motion with any legal merit?
They filed a motion on your behalf, the first team, to preclude media coverage, and I issued my ruling according to the law, all right? They filed a motion to have you dressed out, not in jail clothes during hearings like this, okay? That was not based in law. I denied that motion. So I've ruled on the motions as required by law.
Without any kind of a conclusion of law in them, just denied, 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 denied. Does that not show a bias and a prejudice against one single person?
All right, are you done?
Are you not going to recuse yourself?
No, I'm denying your motion. Anything else?
You have been denied again, Lori. It's over. Stop wasting the taxpayers' money. Just take your L and do the rest of your time in prison. That's what this is all about. She don't want to get sent up the road. She wants to stay in that county jail. She wants to stay with that curler. She wants to be able to have that stupid-ass ring on her finger that's made out of somebody's boxers.
Tick-tock, Lori. You prayed for the end, but the end came for you. Yo, Lori, thought you was a queen of Zion, but you out here lying, children dying, souls crying. Tally had dreams, JJ had light. You buried them both just to chase some false might. You and Chad, in that doomsday delusion, preaching light levels like y'all found absolution. But heaven don't honor deception and death, and karma's coming with each stolen breath. You ain't a goddess, you a ghost in chains. Tally and JJ, we speak their names. No salvation in the lies you spun. Justice don't sleep and the reckoning's begun. Judgment day bell, it's coming fast. You play with fire and burned out at last. Say your prayers to the cell you're in, cause hell got room for a queen of sin. Cold as ice when you danced at that wedding. Kids in the dirt while you smiled unbetting. You loved the man who played God for a game. Now your last name drips with eternal shame. Zombie talk, girl, that ain't divine. It's a front for a crime, a corrupted shrine. A mother's love, nah, you sold them out for a paperback profit and a selfish route. Taylor laughed, JJ played. Now candles burn where they should have stayed. They had futures, you had faith, but now it's justice served on a plate. You ain't a goddess, you a ghost in chains. Holly and JJ, we speak their names. No salvation in the lies you spun. Justice don't sleep and the reckoning's begun. Judgment day bell, it's coming fast, you play with fire and burned out at last. Say your prayers to the cell you're in, 'cause hell got room for a queen of sin. Talia laughed, JJ played. Now candles burn where they should have stayed. They had futures, you had fate, but now it's justice served on a plate. You ain't a goddess, you a ghost in chains. Tali and JJ, we speak the names. No salvation in the lies you spun. Justice don't sleep and the reckoning's begun. Judgment Day bell, it's coming fast. You play with fire and burned out at last. Say your prayers to the cell you're in, 'cause hell got room for a queen of sin.